Happens for a reason. When you're doing these things, you have to keep your eyes and ears and things like that open. Got the macchiato. I think it's a triple shot, double express. Whoa! Dustin Hoffman, I'm walking here, man. Ice flat white GR. My goodness. It's a close one. Almost $1 million lawsuit. But anyway, I think I'm gonna try to get Dave Grohl on it. Escape from Maine. I don't know why, because I heard his book is a great narrator. Yeah, his narration. He did the whole narration of his own book. It was a 5-hour narration, totally 100%. Just don't know how. I'd have to find out who it'd be, and there's narration. There's big time narration in it. Be interesting to use him because he's kind of it's kind of a Escape from Maine is kind of a generation story. It's kind of a story about generation. Boy, that's not even close to being here. Let's do this right here. Gonna put this thing in it right here. So you can kind of see how I use that little bag right there to kind of balance it. So I got to drop off your coffee. I'm gonna put it in the front and watch it a little bit better. I always like the underdog. Put it down here like this. And why not? I mean, he helped out Nirvana because he was a hired drummer for Nirvana. He wasn't the original drummer. Kind of saved the day for their band. And plus, I kind of hear his drums on our song Sun Chips and on the song Drag Sandwich. Yeah, I think he should be on board for sure. Possible narration. He narrated for 5 hours for his own story. I kind of hear his voice. And then I mentioned Alec Baldwin, Jeremy Davies, Michael Pitt. I mentioned Johnny Whitworth, because he's part of the generation too, because Empire Records, big generation film, for sure. These are generation actors that could represent a generation. All of them could, because the film is kind of about a generation. You know, I mentioned the Vietnam War in it because of my father being drafted. I know I mentioned 9/11, which started the long war. I know I mentioned my friend Foster. I know I mentioned him in it. I surely did. He died second tour, Sunni Triangle. He died in battle as a sergeant in Marines. There's a sergeant in it too. There's a Marine in it. The Bulldog was a Marine. He was my boss, or he was my supervisor. I could even show some war sequences and stuff from. I don't know what I call Foster in it though. I have to find a character to play. I mean, an actor to play him. Could be really anybody. I have to find out. Comes to mind is probably someone that kind of looked like him. I'll have to think on that one, on the actor. But who knows? You don't always get your dream cast, but you want to throw it out there. You want to throw the dream cast out there. I got to drop off this coffee. Affleck might be. He's a little bit older though. Someone like him. It's kind of a Foster character. Of course, he'd been dead. He died in 2005, so it'd be probably younger. Always, I'm thinking of the actors being younger. That's still good to do though. It's still good to do because you can find like a younger version of like Ben Affleck kind of thing for the Foster character. It'd be pretty good. Some of these guys may be a little too old, maybe not, I don't know. It just depends, because you can also play them out of age, There's always new actors, though. There's always new actors, that play these younger roles. But he died in 2005, so we were in our 30s when he died.
Approaching a railroad crossing.
The soldier, that gives his life kind of thing. There's always Cooper Hoffman. Cooper Hoffman's like a younger version of Philip Seymour Hoffman because it's his son. We'll figure it out though. There's a lot of casting. Rob and we hung out. You eventually called him PT Skez. Playwright. He's done a film called Beauty Miss 2, which is a short. And several plays. I helped him with a play called Chicken Skin, which we were written up in the Fort Worth Star Telegram, and he helped me with Man 1, Man 2. And he's a Latino playwright, a resident, so he's a resident playwright. Helps out a theater called Artes de la Rosa, and also known as the Marine Theater, which is North Side. So he heads toward North Side. This is the path I would go to visit Rob, usually. And we were younger. Brandon Carter and Mark Friedman and all of us would hang out and make these little short films, and for English class and theater. We were all in the plays together, so we were all in the theater department and creative writing. We all were kind of Smashing Pumpkin fans, and discussed Interview with a Vampire and Francis Ford Coppola fans, and big time Scorsese fans, you could say. And I'd usually hang out with him all the time. His dog bit me one time here. I flipped out and went to the ER. They asked what happened. I said, dog bit me and all this stuff. So they sent the popo over there to make sure the dog was okay and not rabid. Or it was basically just to make sure that the dog had like either a muzzle or wasn't going around biting people, because dog bites are pretty serious. That happened one time, but usually, it was always peaceful hangout, talking about literature. And he filmed Beauty Myths around this area, not exactly on this street, but he lives right next to the seminary, off the other side of Willing, because I lived on the other side of Willing, off of Orion's place, on the other side of Barry and 8th Avenue, I think. He lived more kind of on this side of town. Not on this street, but on the other neighboring street. But we were old friends. We've moved on. He went his direction, I went mine. He still writes plays and does his things, and I do the same thing. We're just two theater people that wouldn't quit. Drop off this coffee. So Rob became my best friend. He might have shot Beauty Myths here. This is a park. I'll have to do filming locations on it eventually. I've seen it a few times. It's really good. It's a little black and white short, or it seems to be black and white. I'd have to go back and watch it. The color code is I don't think it's black and white, but it feels like it is. Rob has helped me with so many projects. We started off friends, like I said, when I went to the theater department, and John David Templin was the teacher. He was an ex-dancer that had been teaching drama for a while. And I had to do a project in English class concerning Hamlet, and I rented the Laurence Olivier Hamlet. And while I was renting it, I went around the Blockbuster that's on the other side of Barry, or right off Barry, right next to Paschal, the old Blockbuster. It's no longer there, but I was walking around the aisles of Blockbuster doing the Ethan Hawke thing, But I was talking about Hamlet with Laurence Olivier, I had seen that. I looked down and I saw this little copy, a Taxi Driver. This Robert De Niro guy, who is this guy? And so from there I was hooked, on Martin Scorsese. But I'd come into the theater department, and I think I mispronounced Scorsese's name. I called him like Scorsese or something like that. It was like some weird name. And he corrected me and said Scorsese. And I looked over in the corner, this long-haired, kind of Native American looking dude. I think he's half Spanish, half Italian. And from then he started educating me on everything about Scorsese, who's that's knocking on the door, and Boxcar Bertha.
Approaching a railroad crossing.
Perfect timing ways. And everything from Last Temptation of Christ to well, he was getting ready to do Cape Fear, and we were doing LcSbanD Angels, Thomas Wolfe. Story about Thomas Wolfe. And it was strange. It was very eerie to be in the movie house and have them mention Thomas Wolfe and LcSbanD Angel, Juliette Lewis, and Robert De Niro. I think that's her name. Anyway, it was weird to hear that happen, and Robert De Niro playing the big bad wolf kind of thing, and it was like, we had just done LcSbanD Angel. We were just all kind of chills, but, Thomas Wolfe was a big deal at NYU. And so it was mentioned in Cape Fear, and it was almost like a whisper from Scorsese from the movie screen, It was kind of frightening. So we all knew that these things were going to be our fate, and we were going to pursue them in some form or fashion. We were going to try. We were going to do it, and we do, and we continue to. So we just do it. This is something we do. We tell our story, but and then I remember when we did LcSbanD Angel, and I played Ben Gann. I was like a big De Niro fan. I was like, how was the performance? Was it all De Niro kind of thing? We use these terms that we spoke in these film terms, about movies. And that was kind of Bergman, or that was kind of Spielberg, or that was De Niro'd out. It was like a way of talking. It was a way of existing. It was a way of life. So this was going to be our profession. So we had to learn how to do it and go forth. And that's what you do, He still does it. We've done several plays, even after high school, after college. We still continue to. Definitely competitors, definitely like-minded. And that's kind of why we choose different paths on things we do. Just like Coppola and Scorsese does, just like every filmmaker, that they choose their different paths on how they do things, Everyone has their methods on how they do it, Several times I'd been over his house and talked with his parents when his dad was still around, and his sister and his family, always staying the night. I was always staying the night over there. If his sister was out, I would sleep in his sister's room, and he'd wake me up. And then he'd come over to the dorm room at Wesleyan. We'd play guitar together, and we were longtime friends, But, I think there's a time in life, I have to say, that, you kind of move on, so you can get things done, And I'm sure we'll cross paths again, probably at a film festival, something like that. He has his style, and, I have mine. This is a new Taco Bell right here. This is Ryan's place. This is where I grew up in high school. This road here. It wants me to turn on Ryan, but I'll just go one over and turn on Willing. And so there was two Jewish girls that lived down the road, Stephanie Black and Jennifer Black, and they were my friends. I gave Stephanie one of my first copies of one of my short stories I wrote on my mom's Roland. She was like, yeah, it's pretty good. You got to watch out for spelling. But she was kind enough to read it, and she hung out with me. She was kind of a girlfriend for a while, and then her sister was in the theater department, Jennifer. She ended up going to the Russian... Well, this thing is going to beep over me. Jennifer went to Russia to the Moscow Art Theater, where Stanislavski taught. Which is like the beginning parts of the system, if you've studied the system, Konstantin Stanislavski. She went there to teach. All right, go ahead and chirp. That was our house. That was the house I was raised in, pretty much in high school. We made a movie there called Blue Season that Rob had written, in that room right there. He didn't write it in that room, but we filmed it in that room. That was my room right there. And we even got a fog machine. It's actually a filming location. I don't know if we shot on the outside of the house. We might have had done it a little bit. Brandon Carter would know. Brandon Carter went to NYU film school back in the day. We got him in with that movie, Blue Season. So NYU is like the mecca of filmmaking. He got in and he got to go. And then later I would return to, or I would go to New York to study at the New School where Woody Allen taught. That's where Woody Allen taught at the New School. And also, not only that, so did Stella Adler. She taught at the New School. Sean Baker was there at the time when I was there. He was studying intensive editing, or actually it was called, he was actually studying, Sean Baker was studying non-linear editing. It's like an advanced studies. And
Approaching a railroad crossing.
we are approaching a railroad crossing. And he would go later, Sean Baker would make Tangerine and then make one of my favorite films, which is called Florida it's called The Florida Project. The Florida Project. Moses had the same problem, but The Florida Project is what it was called. Sean Baker made that one, and with William Dafoe. Cooper went there too. He was there with the Actor Studio. That's where he met De Niro and made his career. So there's my card. I had to drop the card there. A lot of my friends lived in that neighborhood. Mark Friedman lived there. Craig Misfelt, he lived there. He also wanted to be a filmmaker at UCLA. I don't know what he went in some study. I don't know. Mark ended up going to Brooklyn for a while. I lived in Brooklyn for a couple of weeks, and then I ended up living in Manhattan. It's just funny how these things... I used to take these railroad tracks to school every day. I'd walk these railroad tracks, and there was a Blockbuster where I first time rented Taxi Driver, and also Laurence Olivier's Hamlet. The black and white version, of course. Not the black and white version of Taxi Driver. I don't think they have one. It's like, no, they don't. They have a color code copy. It's been color coded. Anyway, there's the rodeo. I'll show you where the Blockbuster was. It was right here. It's pretty weird. It's nothing right now. It'd be cool if it reopens as a Blockbuster.
Police reported ahead.
And that right there is Paschal, R.L. Paschal High School, which is pretty much active today. Past Paschal, going in the TCU area. You know, I think cultures are supposed to collide. It's supposed to be that way. It's not everything's supposed to be handed to you. It's tough. It's the hard part. The hard part of all this art, becoming something, becoming anything, becoming any type of career, to be able to support yourself and your family, has to do with crashing into other cultures. You have to be that way. You have to crash into them. And eventually you have to take your stand. And you say, this is what I am, deal with it, back off. You have to do that to all those cultures. And I've been around all of them. And I'm now making my stand. You know, I have the Apache Nation behind me. I have the Native American. They're 1% of our population. They're the ones that have been hurt the most. So I take my stand. But I do have Irish and English, more so. But I'm lucky. I am the lucky one. Because of that Apache heritage, because of that heritage, because of that Apache heritage, because of that's in me, I get to do what I get to do. Because you're on my land. And I'm being kind enough for you to be here. There's still 1% of us, and that makes a difference when it comes to that heritage. So I take my stand on that. I'm not claiming it because it's already been claimed, but I am taking the stand to tell the story. You have the real estate, that's fine. I have the story. There's a difference between the two. So remember my face. I will do what I need to do to tell my story. If I were you, I'd help. I'd get on board and I'd help. You want to find a way to help. Because I do not plan to fail. I advertise every day. I take a copy of one of my shows. I put it into Facebook Messenger. I find somebody on Facebook that'd be interested, that's in the industry. I message them and I say, please subscribe to the Please Subscribe show. YouTube Cole Spivey. There's Mellow Mushroom right there. And they all know me. They know. You know, I didn't mean to come off as a tyrant in the theater room, but we made sure we got that play done. We had an assignment. Our theater teacher told us this is what we're going to do, and we made sure that that story was told. We did it with vengeance. It was like the wrath of God in us when we showed up. And we almost went to state very many district. It would have been great if we went. We went to see district, region. It was region, area, district, area, and region, or district, region, and area. Went almost to state, but a lot of us went further. So we know how to help. You know how to help. Word of mouth is the strongest, though. Just, hey, I've got this friend. His name's Cole Spivey. He's on YouTube. Check it out. All you got to do is touch a button to help him and his family. You don't even have to say that. You just say, just check him out. It's an interesting show about culture. It's about humanity. It's about everything. It's about a person's story. You should do that. There's a lettuce cook truck right there. Because all you gotta do is touch a button. That's it. Just like, and that helps. But it also helps to watch the videos when you can. So I'll try to watch out on the length of them.